There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I can hear you then.
Hang
How you
on.
keeping, mate? You all right?
Not better. With
Uh,
or without?
with is probably a bit better. Gives you a bit more
Cool.
colour in you. How you keeping, mate? You all right?
Right, yeah. I'm having no issues with this lockdown, so I'm just cracking on working. So, how you
Oh,
been?
really?
Yeah.
Well, has it been pretty easy just to carry on as usual kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm working from home. Close the work laptop, open this laptop, so I
Oh,
can crack
really?
on. Yeah, that easy. How you been getting on?
Yeah. It's been okay. Uh, Obviously, it's one of those because with everything that's going on around us, we can't ignore it. So it's never going to be great. Uh,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, considering the situation that most people are in, I'm doing relatively well. Thankfully, I've not really stopped with work the whole way through it, which is nice.
That's good
Um,
then.
but I think a big thing for us as people is to be able to keep busy with our minds in some way.
Yeah.
Because that's when you see people going a bit nuts when they're just sat in their house or wherever they are day in day out just doing nothing. And of course, if
Yeah.
you don't occupy yourself with something, then you just end up going crazy. Um,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So yeah, thankfully I've been keeping busy with work and whatnot, and then yeah, it was one of those because I was thinking as things sort of shut down back in March last year. I was thinking to myself like that was going to be like a almost like where I'd be doing half the amount of work that I was doing previously, just because a lot of people wouldn't be having me. But instead, I ended up having again my busiest year last year, so I'm still growing, which is nice.
That's good. What do you do
But
again?
then
Is it? It's landscaping or something, isn't it?
a garden maintenance,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, you got like a few different bits. You got landscaping where you do like slabs and fencing and doing ripping up lawns and putting down turf, and then you got garden maintenance, what I do, which is cutting back the edges, trimming the lawns, and
Okay.
doing over the beds and the plants and things like that. But yeah, it's kept me going, thankfully. So I'm really happy about that. But I thought I'd be able to get round to doing a lot more last year, um, initially anyway,
Yeah.
because I thought I'd have a lot more time on my hands. But it just ended up that um, because I ended up being so busy with work, I didn't have that much time on my hands at all. And so a lot of things like this that I've been wanting to do for ages, I just haven't got round to.
I was meaning to ask you because you asked me about this like what
It's probably about
six
a year.
months or more. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably about the time lockdown happened. So I was
Yeah.
wondering
That's
what's going to happen
that,
because
that's it. That's it. Well, I thought the idea then, and then I thought, as we're coming to the back end of it, maybe I'll have a think about doing it then.
we got there.
Yeah. That's it, man. But it is what it is. I'm pretty fortunate, as I think yourself and anyone else who's able to still work in that we've got some
Yeah.
money coming in and we've got something to occupy us. So I think that's pretty important. But the first thing I wanted to start off with was what was sort of your first introduction to music? Was it like a song when you was really, really, really young that like was your first memory?
Specifically, Ferry Corsten's remix of Adagio for Strings.
Really?
The biggest, and I know Tiesto's Adagio for Strings is probably more famous,
Yeah.
but Ferry Corsten's was just like the optimal trance track if you could ever think of one.
Hmm.
Sort of full on hands in the air, emotional,
Yeah.
hit you hard sort of thing. It's just I remember what it must have been. I don't know how old the song is. However old the song was, has
Hmm.
always been blasting in the car. Like
Okay.
like if I was in the car with my dad, he'd always have like trance stuff on, and I remember that track in particular.
Mm.
And yeah,
So would you
so
say that was like your first musical memory in life, or was that your first dance music related memory?
both because
Really?
I literally I could listen to any EDM at all, like house, trance, even drum and bass, even dubstep, even tech house. I know sometimes you might hear me going, "Oh, it's boring," but I'd rather listen to that than like the chart stuff.
Yeah,
I
mate.
can't.
Yeah,
Very. I'd say there's maybe 10 songs that I think are okay that are outside of like electronic dance music.
yeah, yeah,
People go, really? You don't listen to anything else? And I'm like, no, doesn't
no,
give you the feel.
no,
Like listening
no.
to Drake or something. I'm like, fair
Oh,
enough, if you like that, but I'm
don't get
like,
me started.
I'm just like, doesn't move me at all. Doesn't
No,
get the emotion going at all.
no, no,
Don't
no.
listen to Drake and go,
Yeah, yeah,
ah,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Like when you walk into like you know, a local club or something, say that hasn't got, you know, dance music in any way playing, and you walk in and they're playing like a, you know, like you say, a Drake song or some grime song or something. I'm just like,
a bit lost.
this is yeah. I'm just stood there like
And I'm not
everyone else is
saying,
going crazy. They're all like, woo! I'm like,
yeah, I'm not, I don't want to say it's shit. I just don't get it. I'm just like,
I've come to that point as well because yeah, I
if
used to say
you
this
like
is
that,
yeah, yeah,
then fair enough. But
yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't relate
I,
at all.
I used to say that sort of thing where you just walk in and you'd be like, this is just utter shit. But eventually you just come round to the point where you're like, you know what, if people want to listen to it, they can crack on, you know. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, I really, really sort of love the idea of like remixes, bootlegs, mashups of charty tracks with an EDM song. Like, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, for years, you know, the sort of first memories I have of like that kind of thing would be like Dyro did a remix back in the day of Rihanna. What is it, Hot Right Now, I think?
Did he? I thought
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
going to say Ghost. Um, that's his earliest remix that I can remember.
The
I
one,
didn't know he
the
did
Benny
a
Benassi
Rihanna one.
one.
The what?
Is that the Benny Benassi one you're on about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's the only remix
epic.
I can remember him doing from like ages ago. But I didn't know he did Rihanna though.
We did that even before Ghost, yeah, and that was amazing as well. So
I
those
feel like a
kind of
fake fan
tracks,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll send it you later. It's a really
Yeah,
good
link
one.
me because I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
know what you mean. Like Rihanna can belt out a track, but
Hmm.
I don't like the music that goes with it. So if you put her
Yeah.
vocals on like a fucking like massive like house track, then it's just perfect combination. So
I think for some reason, music over the years has shaped to a point where, like you say in the charts, um, the vast majority in chart music for years has been solely based around a singer or a vocalist with a beat behind it.
yeah,
Whereas the thing that gets me and you going, and most of the people in the dance community, is a really good track, like a really good beat, with occasionally a good vocalist behind it. But a lot of the time, we don't need that. We focus more on the actual music itself.
yeah. I
Um,
much prefer. I get more attached to like a melody or like
mhm.
like in Big Room. I don't know if you can call them melodies, but like
A
a
beat.
recognizable, yeah, like a beat, not like just a fat kick, but like the bass or the melody or something like that. Couldn't tell you what half the singers say in songs. I recognize the song.
Yeah,
Couldn't
yeah,
tell you what they say words wise. I'm just like, yeah, get to the drop. And I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's it. Well, like you say, you go to a rave in Victoria Warehouse or whatever, and half the time the track won't be sung, but then when it drops, everyone will go ba 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 ba.
I've got a question for you. Have you ever taken anyone that isn't an EDM fan
Mhm.
to a rave or a gig or something and they walk out and go, well, that was shit? Because it doesn't happen for me.
Um, what do you say? It has happened to you.
No, it's never.
It hasn't.
I know someone who's like, I've even took someone who's sort of like more into like rock, like,
Mm.
and that's like proper like not snobby, but he was like, this is just noise. I don't get it. And I took him along, and he was like, holy shit, and just loved every single thing. And like, took him a while to get into it, but then about halfway through, you just see them just like get taken by the music, and you're like,
Yeah,
ah,
yeah, yeah.
got ya.
Well, I think, like for example, my first rave that I went to, this was what coming up to 5 years ago. It was W&W at Ministry in 2016 in the April, and
Yeah,
I went down with two of my mates at the time, um, and one of them was sort of like a drum and bass head, and he loved dubstep and all that stuff. He was quite the opposite to me, and he
Yeah.
would occasionally listen to Big Room and things like that, but not really. He had the time of his life. He'd never really got invested in Big Room and EDM as a whole. He just, yeah, but he had the time of his life. I took another of my friend, but he didn't get into it, and it was interesting. But again, I think that's not so much a case of he likes other music and just not that. It was just a case of he was a bit of an introvert, and he didn't like the whole scene as a whole.
Yeah.
Like he did. It's not like he didn't like raves, but he liked clubs. He didn't like either. You know what I mean?
All right.
But other than that, like for example, I've met loads of people that I'm now, really good friends with at Creamfields, for example, where Creamfields has been their first introduction to a rave,
Yeah.
and they've become addicted to it, and they've just gone non-stop with raving ever since. So yeah, in terms of that, I've never met anyone that's maybe come from liking maybe they've got a going out sort of spirit about them, and they've gone on nights out, and then they go to a festival or a rave and they dislike it. I've never had that before.
Yeah, no, I can't see it happening. You can't see any kind of dance music and come out and be like, "Well, that was rubbish."
Yeah.
Or you come out like, "Fucking, when's the next one?"
yeah, that's it. So it's really interesting that you say that then. So with that Ferry Corsten Adagio remix, how long ago was that then that you sort of discovered that then?
I'm guessing 2004, if not earlier.
Okay.
Let me find out the release date quickly. And is this edited, by the way? Like, are you gonna like?
No. You can carry on, mate. No. We're just all one, but like carry on, man. Because it's interesting. I mean, I didn't even know that Adagio was that old, let alone that remix.
Well, it actually came out. It was first composed in 1936, and they used it in the film Platoon, which is it's very cheesy.
Oh right, yeah.
Someone dies to that music very slowly after like being shot like literally about 200 times, but he's still going. It's all slow motion.
Yeah.
The original music, and then Ferry Corsten came along and remixed it. And what was it? 1999. So there you go. 22 years.
Wow, I did not know.
So literally since I was about 5, I've been like
Christ,
mad.
I didn't know that. Bloody hell, I thought like Adagio by Tiesto anyway was like 2005, but I guess it's probably older than that then. It's probably maybe late 90s, I guess. Yeah.
That's the year he remixed it. I think it was 2004. I think it's 2003, and then his Silence remix was 2004.
Wow.
But yeah, Ferry Corsten did it in 1999, and if you haven't heard it and you like trance, get onto that immediately. With immediate effect. You send me that Dyro remix, I'll send you this one.
Yeah. We'll do a little trade.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah. We'll do a little trade afterwards. So you say you would have been about 5 or 6 at the time then?
Max, yeah.
So, yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Because, well, you got into it a lot sooner than me. Because, well, my first sort of musical experience, it wasn't dance music related. My first musical experience, I was probably about, 3, I guess. I was old enough to sort of, walk about, and I was talking and whatnot. And basically, my mum's side of the family is Hungarian, and my granddad, her dad, he had a few brothers and sisters. One of his sisters married an Austrian man, and they settled in the Alps in Austria, and they have like a little hotel and a ski resort in Austria. And so when I was younger, we haven't been in quite a long time, but when I was younger, we used to go almost every year, around Christmas time, and it was incredible. Well, anyway, I can vaguely remember it as one of my first memories in life, but there's also a videotape of it, which everybody occasionally puts on, and it really cringes me out because they had like a big sort of dining room, well, not a dining room, I guess like a dining room, but they had like a big open floor, where like they'd host things and people could dance about, and they'd put tunes on, you know, as everyone was getting drunk or whatever. And it was fairly early in the night, and what do you call it? Dad like some radio channel on or whatever, and Sex Bomb came on.
Right. I wasn't
And
expecting you to say that
I
at all.
started getting the moves on and singing at the top of my voice, Sex Bomb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of all songs, I was not expecting you to say that.
And this was this was my start to my musical journey.
One explosion into your musical journey, that was.
Oh man, but yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was going to be like something from like Tiesto or something like that. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
No.
Okay.
Well, that's one of not only that is my first musical memory, but it's also one of my first memories in life. Was that. But it quickly became sort of later on. I don't know, maybe say when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. You know, you'd play the GTAs and, you know, the games on Xbox, and it's kind of mates I was around at the time, they'd be listening to like a lot of rap music. So they were listening more into like Eminem and that kind of thing, but I got into 50 Cent quite a lot. So I'd listen to 50 Cent, Akon, Lil Wayne and all them. But funnily enough, my first album I ever bought was on my 9th birthday, and it was Akon's first album. But that didn't last too long because I was never massively into music at that point. Like, I wasn't addicted to listening to those people. Like, I mean, like, for example, I liked Chris Brown back then, but we're talking like 2005, 2006. So yeah, I'd play the Need for Speed or whatever and have Chris Brown or Akon or whoever in the background whilst I'm going around the streets. And
those games need a remaster. I don't know if I've missed the recent one or what, but they could do it for a remaster. Don't change the music though.
My favourite of all time, we're going off topic a bit here, but let's go.
Doesn't matter.
My favourite, and this is, I never hear this from anyone, my very favourite one is Need for Speed Undercover. My favourite one by far. That's the one that I just sort of, I think like the other ones, like Underground, I'd played at mates' houses, but then Undercover was like the first one that I actually bought, because I think it came out on the 360. It was the first one to come out on the PS3 and 360. And I bought it, and I remember it was like just before Christmas that we got it, and then we had like 3 weeks of Christmas holidays. And I was addicted to it. Like, I could not stop playing it. And I remember I'd have a Chris Brown T-Pain Kiss Kiss in the background.
Oh my God.
Going around in this BMW M6.
It was another one that I liked. I think, was it Carnage or something like that? It was another car game. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even get time to play games anymore because I
No.
literally sit here in the studio like all day. I got Valhalla, the new Assassin's Creed, for Christmas, but
you rate it?
Yeah,
really?
It's still not really Assassin's Creed. It's more like Ancient Warrior Man, but it's good. But like, I had a week off. Like, I gave myself, it must have been about 10 days where it was just like, right, do nothing. And even a couple of times, I think I said, okay, this week I'm going to start. But Monday just gone was like my sort of like, let's crack on. So I had like a nice week of just chilling, playing games, which is rare. Now it's like game on mode. I've got 2 tracks lined up already.
Okay.
Which I can't say, but and we've got another 2 that are like, as long I've basically just got to get hold of that one person at a particular label. And then there's probably going to be another 2, because it's a case of if they like one and they say, what else have you got? Yeah. Got another one. So.
Yeah.
I was going with that. Oh, yeah. Games. Some games have had some good music as well. Like, I never really played FIFA and stuff, but people always going about music from that. But
yeah, I had a stretch with them for a little while. I think I played like 13 through to 17, and then by 17 or 18, I just got bored of them. No, that was enough for me then.
I weirdly, even though I liked dance music, because literally every single time I hear like a good melody, or like, you know, like a big powerful like trance melody, or like if it's electro, it'd be the bass or something. You get goosebumps all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, back when iPod touches were a thing, which hang on,
He's going to grab it.
I still have. I mean, like I went through a phase when I was in high school when I was like playing. I even had like guitar lessons and drum lessons, and I think I even went for like trumpet. Clearly, just tried my hand at all things music.
Yeah.
And then, in fact, I went even further away from that because I had a year at a college which I didn't like. Then I did 2 years of doing uniform public services because pretty much my whole life, or for at least 10 years, I wanted to be in the police.
Okay.
And then literally in the space of 3 weeks, it was scrap all of that and then did a music degree. And it's all because when I got an iPod Touch, there was a little synthesizer app. And I just put the big trancy chord thing and I'd just be hitting notes like, oh my God, this is amazing. I sound like all the fucking trance CDs that I've got and stuff like that. But there was no way to record it. So I would play it, but have my phone recording it and then listen back on my phone thinking, this would make a good melody. I wish someone could make a track like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Without really thinking about it. Like this has been uncharged for what year did it come out? 7 years ago. Wow. So yeah, just and all of it. I was like, please, 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 and then literally it was just bang. Did a music degree in 2013.
Right. So how old
you learned nothing on the degree. That's just a waste of money. But 2015 onwards was like YouTube tutorials, and that's the main way you learn. Don't bother with.
So after the Ferry Custom remix, then you'd heard that. Was it through sort of like, because you said you were about 5 at the time, 5 through to sort of like late teens? Were you constantly listening to dance music type stuff?
No, that's what I mean. I was into more. I wouldn't say into, like I'd sort of put up with tracks and it was just sort of okay. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers, I used to try to play their songs because they were quite easy to just pick up the melody and just look up the notes on the internet and just write.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I could play now was Can't Stop by Red Hot Chili Peppers, just on the off. If someone give me a guitar, that was it. I can't play anything else. Can't play chords or anything anymore. Couldn't even tell you what they are. The first rave that I went to was Tiesto and Calvin Harris in their Greater Than tour.
Wow.
Where they had Pete Tong on. Danny Avila before he even was known at all. And GTA when they weren't dubstep.
Wow.
GTA, then Danny Avila, then what was it? Pete Tong. Then it was Calvin Harris around the time when Showtek blew up, because I remember him playing Slow Down by Showtek. And it was just like, oh my God, what's all this music?
Wow.
And then Tiesto came on and he played it was like, what's his song? Maximal Crazy. It was around that time. And then he finished off with trance at the end. So that was like my first sort of fucking like back into dance music sort of thing. And that was probably around the time that I got onto. In fact, it was because I bought the tickets while I was in the lesson, in my first lesson of my first lecture of that uni course. Because I remember going, yes, and the lecturer looked over like, what's going on there? But I just got tickets. I spent there like, you know, when you queue for tickets and you have to like, before it sells out. And I was yes, like under my breath, and he was like, you okay? And I was like, yeah, not on my phone at all. So it was like guitar and not dance music focused for years.
Yeah.
And then it was just suddenly, now I'm on a degree, now I'm going raves.
Wow.
Like just literally like that in the space of a couple of weeks.
So what age were you when that turned? Was it when you turned 18 and you could start going to them that you just started going straight away, or?
No, I was about 19 when I went on the degree course. So I must have been, my first rave was when I was 19, was the Greater Than tour, the Tiesto one. Before that, the last time I went to the MEN, which is where I saw them, was to see Busted.
Oh my God.
I was it. On my only show that I ever went to was Busted. God knows what year that was. Like, it must have been in primary school. That was probably like 2004, 5 or something.
Oh wow!
And then yeah, so.
So when was this Tiesto show? This first rave? When was that?
2013.
And you would have been how old then? You're 19.
And the year after, because it was while I was on that course, I remember a good friend of mine, he actually said, listen, we need to go Creamfields. And I just got my student loan. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll book for 3 days. And he went, really? I was like, yeah. Number 4. Just piss him away.
Wow. So your first festival then would have been Creamfields 2014, would it?
Yeah, and that is the only festival I've ever been.
What?
Yeah, I've never been Reading, never been Leeds, never been Glastonbury.
I mean, you've been Creamfields multiple times though, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. Creamfields
I was like, oh, what?
Creamfields as a whole is the only place that I've ever been to.
Yeah.
In Tomorrowland, which is like shameful. I haven't been any of the ultras, nothing. I need to sort it out. Suppose, can you count AMF as a festival, even though it's one night?
Yeah, I'd count it. Yeah. Well, you did ADE, didn't you?
Yeah, in 2000.
Yeah, I'd count that for sure. Definitely.
Well, okay, we'll count that. Apart from those two, that's it. That's the only things I've been to. And then Victoria Warehouse and stuff for like raves in between. Hellfire. I think the first one there was Nicky Romero and his paint party. I think you went as well, didn't
you? So which one was that? Because I did 2 of them.
I went to both.
Oh, was there only 2?
Yeah, there was only 2 paint parties. Nicky Romero did them both.
Because I did the 2017 one. You remember that, where it was like Danik, Jay Hardway opening?
Yeah, I went to that.
W after Nicky Romero.
Yeah, there was 2016 where it was Nicky Romero. Danny Avila was there again.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, he'd blown up.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Can't remember. But whoever came up with the idea of having a rave and just having a gun that just goes. Apparently, I like that.
Yeah, nuts.
Absolutely soaked, and we stink of like paint, but it was great. Can't explain why.
It was epic. That was, funnily enough, because like I say, in April of 2016, I turned 18. Because I'm 22 now. I turned 18 back then, and within 2 weeks, I was at my first rave, which was the W&W Ministry, and then
I think it was W&W. Oh no, was it? No, it wasn't. Sorry, carry on.
W&W were at the second one, the 2017 one. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, I'm getting both mixed up then.
Yeah. Because then, for about a year, God knows why, I just guess. I mean, at the time, I suppose I didn't have much money. I was only like, I just turned 18. I was trying to slowly build up my business at the time, so I didn't have any money really, and none of my mates at all from around where I live are into music in any way, in the way that I am. So there was no real opportunity to. But then I think it was like September, October of 2016, the Life in Colour 2017 lineup got announced for the February, and I seen it was like Nicky Romero, W&W, Danik, Jay Hardway, and these are like guys that I've idolised for the best part of 10 years up until then. I was like, I have to go. So I said, I'll go in, even if I go on my own. Luckily, one of my mates joined me and we had a class time. But that was incredible. That was my second rave ever. So you imagine that. My first rave was in Ministry, which is pretty big as an event already, being like the kind of club that it is. But then to then go to that place and to be in that massive crowd in that warehouse, it was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, I'll tell you what, I think it was 2013 where it was like, I like dance music. I don't even remember being able to know where to look for that dance music. I think I'd literally type in stuff into Google, like something random, like I wouldn't even like know to say like the difference between trance and electro. I'd just hear stuff and I'd be like, oh, what's this? And then I'd sort of copy and paste it and see what I come up with. Mm-hmm. Until Hardwell did his 2013 Ultra set,
Mm.
and that was just like
Mhm.
blew my head off.
Mm.
That was like, I think 2012 he had a big year. I can't remember seeing that set, but 2013 was like the introduction to all of the big room stuff, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my, I like this. I like this a lot because he played a lot of W&W stuff, and
yeah,
he
yeah.
played Gyro, and he played. I think he had one with Danik out at the time, didn't he? Unless it
Mm.
was a Danik track on his own, or was that 2014? But the year after was my first year at Creamfields, and when I caught Gyro, feet destroyed because he was on late, and I think I stumbled upon him like 2 o'clock on the Saturday night going into the morning.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, oh my god. Just sort of leaning on the rail on the outside of the tent, and you could just hear Dyro going off, and I was like,
Wow.
God, what is this? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely, I think it was 2013 for definite was the year that I was like, okay, I'm all about this.
Right, right. Yeah, because I
So,
think for me, the year that I got into it was 2010. Like when I properly, fully invested in dance music was 2010. I was 12 at the time, so I just literally started high school. And I remember I was on YouTube and I was just flicking through, different bits of music, and I came across a couple of trance songs, and then it was like it was like almost like an electro track, but like a late 2000s electro track. So it was nothing like what we know nowadays. It was, in a
remember what it was?
sense, in a sense, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll send it you afterwards in a bit. It was quite basic. It was, in fact, I don't know if it's. I'll have a look afterwards. I don't know if it's blown up at all, or how many views it had at the time.
Yeah.
But it was this. It was just like this small American, like West Coast producer, and he made this track, and then someone made I think like a bootleg of it, and I played it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really good." Like it wasn't like anything particularly special, but I just enjoyed it, and I was like,
That genre.
I'm hearing sounds as the main part of the song rather than vocals, and I was just like,
Yeah, yeah.
wow, this is possible. And then I just started going down a rabbit hole, and eventually I got to Hardwell at Ultra. I think it was 2012. I think the first one I seen. No, it wasn't. It was Tomorrowland, or Hardwell Tomorrowland 2012, because that was the year that they then recreated at Tomorrowland in 2019 with the book stage. I'm almost certain. So they recreated it from 2012, and I remember seeing it. And at the time, I mean, it's I think the most viewed Tomorrowland video. It's certainly the most viewed Hardwell video. It's got like I think it's 150 million views. It's something ridiculous. But at the time I came across it, it was like, yeah, it's insane. But at the time I came across it, it was like 50 million. And I was like, what's this? And I clicked on it, and then immediately I was just hooked up to it straight away. And then I just started going down a rabbit hole. And then from 2012, I then literally listened to Hardwell on Air for about 6-7 years religiously every week. So I remember my first Hardwell on Air was like episode 110.
Yeah.
And then
Probably
I religiously listened to him.
something.
He's on like 500 odd now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So
He's next on my to-do list to get supported by.
that's
And he
it.
needs
That's it.
to return. It's really sad.
Yeah, mate.
I'm
That's
not
something I want to come to in a second.
Jackswell by any chance.
The what?
Jackswell by any chance, or Hardwell?
What's the first one you said? Jackswell.
Have you not heard Blaster Jackson Hardwell doing a track together under the alias Jackswell? Which is an atrocious name, but yeah.
Yeah. Horrendous.
That's happening.
Really?
Yeah. I'll link you to that. We're going to have to swap loads of links.
We're going to be busy after this. Jesus Christ. No, I hadn't heard of that.
It's not released, but they've done like it's like a boot house idea at the minute, which I think means here's the track, it's coming out soon. I don't know if they're trying to create hype. And it's just like it's okay.
Yeah.
Considering Blaster Jacks are amazing, Hardwell are amazing, and the first track they did together was amazing. Or they've done two. Big Room Never Dies, and I'm sure there's another one.
I think there might be
But
another one. Yeah,
it's like
Going Crazy. They did Going Crazy.
yes, I'd say that one's the better one, but it's like okay, it's all right. It's not.
Really?
It's not
Is
like
it
it would
not
be
like
like a
Big
stand.
Room orientated then?
Yeah, it is, and it's more sort of Hardwell Big Room than Blasterjack's Big Room, but
Yeah, because so, something that funny you mentioned about that I've noticed over the past year, 2 years, maybe, or maybe even 3 years, um, is a lot of the big guys you see in bringing out their aliases. So you had Martin Garrix with White Ram, then you had Tiesto has recently done his Ver West thing. David Guetta, I think 2 years ago now, started his Jack Black thing. You've got quite a few people doing aliases, and it's interesting to see that they've got a real hunger to create something else that's fairly different to what they're already doing.
yeah, I think when big names do that and they say, "Oh, they always get slammed for like jumping on the bandwagon," or "Oh, why are you changing your sound?" And then, but like if they keep the sound, they'll people will be saying, "Oh, why don't you do anything new?" And then when they do something new, it's like, "Oh, you're changing your sound. We don't like it."
Mm.
Nicky did one. I can't remember his name. It was I can't remember his name. He's done an alias as well, and it's more progressive house, like sort of third party progressive house, not his big room progressive house sort of thing.
You talking
And I
Nicky
like
Romero?
both. Yeah, Nicky Romero's got an alias as well.
Hmm. I
Again,
think
I'll
I
look
might
you
know
up. We're gonna have a whole fucking list of stuff. Hold on, I didn't know this thing. Let's swap stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I don't know what David Guetta's doing with his Jack Back stuff because one of his Jack Back remixes is um, very sort of future rave, which is what he's doing with Morton,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I think is like at the minute the most pinnacle sound. It's just
Me and
got
you, me and you. I've noticed out of all my mates, you've been the one with me that's fully jumped on that bandwagon. Like, I
yeah.
love
Oh
it,
my god.
love it.
You've got the trance melodies, you've got the fat kick, you've got the disgusting basses, and they all just slam it together,
Mm.
and it's like, okay, you win. You just take everything. I'll buy tickets to everything. What was annoying because I've still not been to Ibiza as well, which is shameful. I was supposed to be watching David Guetta at Ushuaia,
Mm.
um, and obviously hear all this new stuff.
Mm.
The I've never watched David Guetta in my life because I always thought he was a bit naff.
Hmm.
And then 2019 ADE, because he was on just before Tiesto, so I was like, okay, well, what's David Guetta?
Mm.
And wait for Tiesto and Armin to come on. Didn't even come close, those two. David Guetta just blew my head off. All
Really?
this rave was like, I think it was the first time he played um, Make It to, oh no, he played Make It to Heaven at Tomorrowland. What was the other one that he did with Martin? It's Martin's favourite track. Not Kill Me Slow. What's the
Nothing.
other? Nothing. It's the first time he played Nothing. And I've got a video of it. I think I put it on my story the other day. And oh my God. And it's the first time he played 3 a.m. as well. I
Okay.
was like,
Yeah, yeah,
just. And
yeah.
it is completely new, like rave sound. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
hey, get us the new favourite. Well, like tied with more thing because they do it together.
You say that this was AMF 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember. Thank God. Funnily enough, it just so happened to be because I know Getter used to play Creamfields, but the first Creamfields I did was 2017. I did 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Obviously, was going to do last year, but yeah, I did them three. And in those years, he was never around. And he's never really been around in any of the gigs that I've been able to go to. But
Yeah.
when I was at Tomorrowland 2019, he was headlining the main stage on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was headlining. He was like co-headlining with Tiesto and a few others, and I was on the hill, like at the top in the middle,
Yeah.
and I was wanting to be there because I wanted to watch Nicky Romero's hour, and Nicky Romero just finished, and we were just sort of sat on the ground just chilling, and we didn't really know who was on next, and it just happened David Guetta, and he comes up, and then I thought I'll stick around and I'll see what's happening, and then I stood around and I was like, oh my God. And he came out on stage and he said, he started talking about how, you know, he was going to essentially present his new sound, the future rave sound. And then, I'm not joking you, for the whole hour, it was all just future rave style tracks. And I was like, wow.
I'm into this.
Yeah. I feel so lucky that I got to be there for that introduction of that sound. Because, like, he's obviously, it's not like a side thing where, like, he's done, like, a song with, you know, like a charty song or whatever, and then that's just a side and done, and we can forget about it. Like, he seems fully invested in this.
Yeah, well, they did that remix of Avicii's Heaven, didn't he? And I think because that was the first one, he's clearly gone, well, that went down well. Did some more, and oh my God, because I've watched that Tomorrowland set. I've watched the AMF one that I watched so many times that I can tell that some of the tracks there are like the final draft, and then the Tomorrowland one, they sound just like a little bit different, and some vocal snippets not in. And maybe I'm a bit too obsessed, I don't know, but I can hear that the Tomorrowland one are almost like a sort of second draft. Okay. And then AMF was like, yes, this is the one, this is the final version.
Right.
Even 3 a.m. when he played at AMF didn't have the little, this is Detroit 3 a.m. bit. It just fades out and then just hits you, and you're like, what is this? How 3 a.m. is just mad. But I think when was the EP? I think the EP was like May time, so it took him 5 months to just add in 3 a.m. This is Detroit 3 a.m. even. So, but yeah, it sounds like you had the exact same. Oh, we'll see what it's about, and then he blows your head off. Like, what just happened?
I've well, actually, that's one thing I want to ask you before we go into the other. Have you had that experience a lot before? Because I had that with him. I had that with, and I already liked their music already, but I was passing them at Tomorrowland, Moxie, and my God, I fell in love. Them, Pep and Rash, those were incredible as well. But have you ever had anyone like that where you've just happened to be in the area and just fallen in love with them when you've not had a clue about them before?
Yeah, Gyro, because that first time where I heard him at Creamfields 2014, Feet Kill, and I just thought, I think it was the Revealed tent when they used to do that. And I just thought, let's see what this is about. And he opened with, I got there just as he opened with his collab with Danik. I can't remember the name. I think, it begins with an R. It's not Reload, it's whatever it was. It's the one with Danik, and it starts off slow. Like, he's brought the tempo down. Radical, yeah. And it's like, okay, it's building up and up, and then it just goes and starts.
Yeah.
Everyone started screaming, and he's like, "What's up, you guys?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, why have I not heard of these before?"
It's got like 3 build-ups, hasn't it? It's got like levels. It's like, here we go, and it starts up again, and it starts up again.
Yeah,
it's class.
Every single thing, every single track he dropped in that set, I was like, "Oh my God!" And funnily enough, Garrick's. I started going Garlands in Liverpool when like Animals came out, and it was just that plinky plonky big room drop. And at the time, this is new, this is great, and then it quickly got boring. But I happened to just walk past the South stage when Martin Garrix was playing. Maybe I think it was 2017. It was when he was coming out of his big room phase into more progressive stuff.
Was this at the same time that Tiesto was on the Sunday night? Is that what you're on about? Or
yeah, probably.
Right.
If anything, it was the year when Martin Garrix was first, and then Tiesto was on after. And then because Martin Garrix has got so big, they're on separate stages now.
That would have been 16, because 17, when I was there my first year, they was separated, because at that point you had Martin Garrix on the Horizon and then Tiesto on the Arc one. And I've always gone to Tiesto.
And I think it was the first time, I'm sure it was Lions in the Wild, when he first played that, and other progressive stuff like that. And I was like, this guy is a genius. Like, people slam him, but he's, and I don't know why. Or they used to, and they don't as much now. I don't see it as much. But how old is he? 24? And I'm like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
What the hell? He just owns the scene. Him and Tiesto and Guetta own the scene. Armin's just like he's just got the whole of trance.
Yeah.
And I don't know anyone who doesn't like Armin. But Tiesto, who's been going 25 years more than Martin Garrix and Guetta, are just like. Did you see Martin Garrix's Ether set from ADE 2019, which I now not going?
I seen parts of it. My thing with Garrix, right, is like obviously I was first introduced to him with Animals as well, but I got introduced to him before Animals even came out, like before it was even released on Spinning, because it came out. I don't know how, but it was on one of the Reveal Volume albums. I think it was like Reveal Volume 5, maybe, and it was like 20. Like I think Animals got released in 2014, was it, or was it? And this album came out in 2013. Like it was 6 months in advance. I think someone from Revealed somehow got it, and it was on the album. So you had like Danik tracks, Julian Jordan, Calore, even Hardwell tracks, Thomas Newson, and then bang, halfway down the album, you had Martin Garrix, Animals. Now, I never ever took interest in it because I liked like the Thomas Newson style at that point and the Danik and the Dyro style.
Polaroid and stuff like that.
Polaroid.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So things like that, Polaroid, Ravefield, things like that. I they were that good that I didn't pay too much attention to Animals. And I've never fell in love with Animals. It's never done for me what Polaroid and all these other ones have.
No.
But for some reason.
I mean, it was okay when you're drunk.
Yeah.
I definitely preferred the bassy hit of Polaroid.
What I mean. The hard head hitting big room. But it was interesting because I had it, like I say, on this CD, and I would have been, this was 2013, so I would have been about 14, 15 in my last year of high school. And my sister would take me to high school because she was 5 years older, so she'd just passed the driving test, so she'd help out my parents and take me to school. And I'd say to her every time she'd take me to school, I'd chuck the CD in the car and I said, let's play this, like. And her and her partner, they'd take me to school, like they'd sit in the front, I'd be in the back, and we'd always have, for sort of about a few months anyway, I particularly remember having this one album on, because every time we'd play the album, the one track that they'd always point out was Animals, and I was like, I mean, yeah, it's pretty good, but and then later on in years when it obviously it blew up. I think it blew up in mid 2014 with all the memes and things like that, and all the what do you call it, the Vines at the time, and people were using it on Vines, and it was going on Facebook and everything.
I think it was earlier. Martin had his first year at Ultra 2013. I might be wrong, because it would have blew up just before then for him to get on.
Well, it might have been slightly earlier then, but I think it was. Yeah, it might have been around then, but either way, I mean, I've got my time frame maybe a bit messed up, but I remember we was listening to it a good few months before, it even got out there and was known. And I remember then looking back later on, how I just said, and just kind of ignored it. And they were like raving about it. And I thought, you guys should be agents. I thought you could see talent before me, clearly. Because they was like, no, that's like the one track that stands out to us. I was just like, but what I want to do is bridge the gap between when you started this course that you're talking about, where you started to study it, and then where you are now. Because obviously then that was just you sort of basic getting to understand the basics of producing, to now where you're at a pretty prevalent point. You've got some pretty good releases on some pretty prevalent labels. So how did you make the bridge? How did you go from there to here?
The course, I got the impression. I mean, it's weird how I come across the course, because do you want the story or not? I'll try briefly. So, as I said, I was on the Uniform Public Services course, absolutely determined in either being in the police or the Marines. It's a bit extreme. It was like, be at home, be a policeman, look, because my cousin's in the armed response, so obviously young age, I'm like, I want an MP5 for me every day. Like,
Play too much Call of Duty.
Cup holder. Oh, that's not my cup. That's my machine gun. So he actually told me that the guy that he went for an interview with said that he wanted the role because he likes Call of Duty, and obviously the employers went,
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the lad that was like my best mate at the time, he had a mate who was like his long-term mate, and that mate was like a bit of a recluse, but he was on this music degree, and this was in like the summer of 2013 when I just finished my police course, so that would have been July. And I met this lad, and he was telling me, and he was showing me all this like dance music and stuff that he was doing. It wasn't very good. It was like, I think he was doing like more drum and bassy stuff. So I was like, hold on, I want to know how to make that. And then he showed me what to do, and I come up with a few like really basic stuff. I was like, how'd you get on this degree? And literally 3 weeks of basically begging the tutor. The tutor was like, I don't want to say stuck up, but he used to be steps manager, proper, very well spoken, and you've got me fucking wandering in like, oh yeah, I've never done music before. I'd like to join the course. And he was like, but really, I'm not sure you've got the capabilities. And I was like, no, trust me, I will learn. I will do whatever I can to get on this course. Got on the course, 2 years, waste of money. Right. The only thing that I got out of it was meeting this lad called Elliot Wardle, who is an absolute genius with sound design. And when I finished that course, so I finished it 2015, and the end task was to create an EP, created it, it was utter shite, and I had 9 months probably. It was probably into 2014 where I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I'd come back to it and I'd be like, well, okay, sounds shit, I'd just like stuff that. So like the end of 2014, I messaged Elliot saying, listen, didn't really learn much from the course, can I just pay you for lessons? Just show me like the basics. And he was like a massive drum and bass producer.
Yeah.
He never released anything. He just had about 20 tracks, and every time he showed me something, I was like, how the fuck do you produce like that? So I paid him. I think I had about a dozen lessons with him or something like that, like a couple of 2 hours slots. And then he moved to Australia, and I was like, well, that's selfish. So I did my best on just like YouTube stuff, and nothing clicked. Nothing whatsoever clicked from 2014 to 2019. So I had 5 years of just fucking about. And then just before I went ADA in 2019, because I never showed anyone anything, and you know Lee Fallon.
Yeah.
Start of 2019, I think I put on my story like we should collaborate with, and he was like, yo, let's go. No, it wasn't. It was 2018. It must have been the end. He said, right, let's go. And I was like, okay. And then we did Psytrance, and I was like, oh, I don't know. It's not that good. Got the first release in May on like Smile and stuff. And, you know, it's an okay label. It's not like spinning or anything like that. I was like, well, okay. That went to #1. So I was like, okay. Am I getting mixed up? I am getting mixed up. Sorry, backtrack. It was 2019. I thought, I'm utter shit. I don't know anything. I had a few tracks, and it clicked on the August. And it was this track called Totem, which still isn't released. But when I went armed with that track to ADA, showed Blaster Jacks, they said, this is Ace, is contacts for labels and stuff.
Wow.
It's stuck between house and trance, and the trance label say, oh, it's too housey, and the house label say, oh, it's too trancey.
Right.
So, not stuck. And then I showed music by Lucas. He's a spinning guy, and he said, well, you've got one thing that these guys haven't got is you know how to produce. So I've spent 5 years thinking I'm shite. And then I've gone, okay, showed these guys my tracks, and they've said, yeah, this is really good. You need to get it sent out. So I was like, what the hell? And Lee was saying the whole time, you can produce, just send your tracks out. And then we did Subsonic Bass. Then it went to #1. Then I had a bit of like, not much. And then my next track, my only other track, went onto Dawn. Wow. So I had like 5 years of just doubting myself, thinking I'm shite. And then when I finally showed people, they were like, what the fuck? You can produce.
Wow.
And then it was like, okay, I guess I can do all right.
So
So
you'd made this totem that you're on about. What sort of got you in your mind to go, okay, I need to take this with me to ADE and get this out there?
at the time, I was with a manager, which I'm no longer with. He was going to ADE,
Mhm.
and he basically said, "You need to have some tracks armed, ready to go." And he was like, "Right, you need to get 5 tracks ready."
Mhm.
Totem was one of them. I think I had like 2 more that I was like sort of happy with, but I was showing people this Totem,
Mhm.
a vocal track, and something else. Totem seems to just have stuck. I even showed Danik, and he said like, "Oh, it's cool, but obviously not for him." And I was showing all these big DJs, and I was like, no one said, "Oh, the mix isn't very good. You know, go fix it." It's like, "This is really good. Go send it."
Mhm.
Um, I basically got lots of bad advice off said manager, so ditched him.
Mhm.
Since I've done my own thing, that's when the releases started happening. So, and it was a bit of a gut feeling. I had like a year with this manager, didn't really achieve much. The only thing I achieved was because he said, "You need to go to ADE,"
Mhm.
which is good because I went to ADE and then realised, oh, actually, I am quite good at this
Mhm.
to a point. You know, I'm not amazing, but I can do stuff
Well,
to a point. So I
the,
can't remember what you asked. Did that answer the question?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you see, the funny thing is like I say, I was talking to Josh yesterday, and it was really interesting because we kind of got into how can you make it in this industry. Because Josh came from a just wanting to DJ and play for crowds and entertain background, and that's exactly where I've come from. You know, when I seen W&W, you know, play Ministry of Sound, my first gig that I went to, I I couldn't think of anywhere else that would be as heaven-like as that environment, and
Yeah.
so it wasn't until about 2 years on from that, maybe 2018, that I actually thought, hang on a second, I could learn to DJ here, and this could become a possibility. This could become later in life a career possibility. And so, um, yeah, like I say, funnily enough, the how you got learning to produce with your mate, um, and you're finding that, you know, the established way of doing it through going to a course was useless. I had a similar scenario where I went to a place, I won't say the name, but it was a place where, you know, you can go, and I think they give you like a 16-week course or whatever, and they're saying by the end of it, you know, you'll be able to, you know, DJ, you know, mix, set up,
Yeah.
track, all the good stuff that you need to know. And I went in there, and there was just something about it that I didn't connect with, like the tutor that was talking to me. I just couldn't connect, and I couldn't really understand exactly how he was explaining it. And so I kind of left it for a little while. I think that was sort of middle of 2018, and then at the end of 2018, come sort of December, I'd made it known to a friend of mine that I really wanted to get into DJing, and to actually, you know, I mean, at this point, I've been to ministry, I've been to raves overall in the UK hundreds of times. You know, I
I'm
know
jealous
every
how often you've
DJ.
been to ministry. I've only been
Well,
once, and it was to see not Paul Oakenfold.
was it
It was
Ferry
with
Corsten you told me, was it, or?
no. There's another trance DJ. It's big in America. Can't remember his name, but I've only been there once, and I was in VIP, so the sub just carried up into. I was in VIP, but in the corner. So I'm sure you know to. I know to bring ear things next time because it was just like, what song is this? I can't even work it out. I see you in there all the time, and I'm like, oh, I need to. I've been meaning to message you to like join you, and then
Absolutely,
you're
mate.
got
I'll tell you what, mate. As soon as things get sorted, because I know we've had this conversation before, but as soon as sort of things flatten out and go back to normal, and ministry's back up and running again, then first plan is get you down with me one weekend, and we'll have a proper good time down there. Because, like I say, it's home from me. It's, it's such an important place in my life. I never did, very well in school at all. Like I was never an academic kid. Um, I was always pretty good at like mental maths and spelling and things like that. Like I got the very basics down. But when it comes to going into sciences and trying to do biology and all these different things, I was horrendous at that. Algebra, horrendous with that. A lot of these things I was just absolutely crap at.
Yeah.
But so I did fairly well in IT and business, but then the other stuff I was just horrendous at. Like it just wasn't for me. It was a case of A, I wasn't very good at it, but B, I wasn't interested. And you can only go so far with something if you're not interested. You're not going to be very good at it either way.
Of course you did. Was that one that you found yourself and paid for, or was it a uni one?
What's this? Sorry.
Your course that you did, was that a uni one, or was it like an online thing?
To learn to DJ. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. So yeah. Well, essentially, the way that I ended up learning to DJ was through this mate, like how you
Oh, okay.
learning to produce was through this guy. I learned through this mate, so I went down to his house for the weekend. What it was Nicky Romero would play Ministry of Sound every December. And so it was December 2018. I'd booked the tickets like a month in advance because I really wanted to see him. I think it was going to be my first time like properly seeing him. And so I went down there. Well, I had the plans to go down there anyway. And whilst I thought, okay, I'm down there, this mate of mine, he's down south, like near that area anyway. So I dropped him a message. I said to him, I really want to learn to DJ. And he kind of offered it to me at the time as well. And so I just said to him, look, mate, I'll chuck you a bit of cash like and teach me to DJ. And he said, yeah, absolutely. So Friday night, this was at the time before I even had a car, so I was still driving in my work van. I drove down from my house. Bearing in mind, this is a funny little side bit. On my van, I bought my van in end of 2016. I got it sign written. So it says my company's name, Elite Garden Services on the side, contact Mike Sutton, and then it's got Facebook link, email and number, and a few other little bits and bobs. But you then imagine that I'm then driving from my hometown, just south of Birmingham, down to London. I'm driving around the city of London. People are seeing a gardening sign written van. And me and my dad would always joke about how I'd get people taking down my number to do their garden in London. But yeah, I'd always, go down there. And so, yeah, basically I drove down there, did the Nicky Romero night, went back to the van and had a few hours sleep in the van. I woke up the next morning and then drove straight to my mate's house. And then all Saturday, just constantly stood behind the decks, I think, for about 12 hours. And then same again Sunday. I stayed over his Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, woke up again behind the decks for about 12 hours. Then late Sunday night, drove back home. Got home pretty late, got to bed and back to work Monday morning.
And Scotland.
Yeah. So that's literally how I got to learn. It was just a case of two, pretty long sessions with him. And, credit to him, he's a brilliant teacher. Like he taught me really well. I think you know him, Matt from GXD.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm currently possibly. Well, we've got a track in the works.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He's actually blowing up my phone now because he sent me over a demo. I was like, oh my God, this is the one.
No, he's a really good lad, and like I say, he was brilliant. I couldn't have asked for a better sort of teacher in terms of learning to DJ, and so it worked out quite well because at that time I sort of lined it up. I said, okay, I'm gonna just do this all in one. So at the same time as all that had been planned, I'd planned for literally a few days later to pick up that next setup. So it just all aligned. It just all aligned perfectly well. Because what I wanted to do was go down there, learn off him, and then bring it back and then practice here. I didn't want to go to him, then wait a year till I get some decks, and then I forgot what I've learned. So I thought I'll get down here, get over there, learn all the basics, bring it back here, and then I can, keep on practicing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really important for me. But it's interesting hearing what you were saying then about how you sort of got out there to ADE with that one track, and it was just a case of just getting about and almost seeing who would like it. Like you say, you go to multiple big DJs and they're not particularly interested, and then Blasterjacks give you that real good piece of feedback. Um, it was a similar thing to me. Like, I think probably a question you get asked a lot, and a question I get asked a lot, and certainly Josh did yesterday when I was asking, when I was talking to him even, is how do you get success in any way? Like, how do you get your foot in the door at a club? How do you get your foot in the door at a big rave? How do you get onto a noticeable, reputable label like Dawn? How do you get a number one? These are questions that we're always posed. And it's funny because at the time when you set out, you're clueless as to how you're going to get there. It just kind of happens. But then when you look back, you're able to sort of trace your footsteps.
Yeah. I mean, I I think Dan Fisher is up in Liverpool.
Oh,
He got me on this book called The Third Door, and there's like the theory behind it is like 95% of people go through the main door. Like, so door one is like the general sort of public. Door two is VIP entrance. So like that's like 4.9% of all of the rest of the people do that. And then the third door is like the back door that you get in, like past, you sneak in past security, or such and such, and they get you in, and then you're like backstage, not just with like the sort of the normal people. You're in there like with the thing. And the third door is what happened with my Dawn release. I was sending, I sent the totem track to Morton. Sent him another one, and he kept on, oh, these are fire, bro. And he gave me his private email, sent him a few more, and he was like, as I sent him the realm, and he supported it. And knowing exactly what I was trying to do, I said, do you think spinning it like this? And rather than him just going, yeah, he literally went, he CC'd me into the email with the head A&R was spinning. He went, such and such, meet Mark. And I was like, what the fuck? So he was literally my third door in. It just spiraled
wow.
in. And it was just, he basically went, yeah, I've had a listen. The Dawn team won it. And I was like, oh my God. All because I just sort of angled to Morton saying, oh, do you think they'd like it? And he's one of the nicest guys I'm yet to meet. And he could have just went, yeah, probably. You try email them, because I was actually trying to get it to them via their spinning talent pool. Took it down, wasn't interested, but because Morton literally went, here you go, and introduced me. The third door thing works a lot. So from experience, people is a good thing. I set myself up this time last year in the February. There was a convention in Liverpool, a Sound Summit, and I made sure to set up, and I emailed them beforehand to get in touch with a guy at Axtone and the guy at Armada. Didn't necessarily have tracks ready for them, but that face-to-face interaction is so important. And James at Armada said the same. He said, like, because he said, okay, then go and show me a few tracks. And I said, it's not really Armada, but he said, we've had that face-to-face thing now. Because immediately I was like, do you want a coffee? And it was like, okay, off onto a good foot. We've had that face-to-face thing, so that if I ever do make something that might suit Armada in the future, I talked to James quite a bit, so I've sort of established that. So I would say to anyone listening, try getting face-to-face. Try get in the third door route where you know someone who can help. Don't just outright sort of go, hiya, can you help? Because they're not going to do that. No. Morton only helped me because I was just sending him stuff after track after track after track. And he was like, bro, this is fire. And I was like, when he said that, that's why I was like, oh, I just think they'd like it. And then he helped me. And then the third one would be plan ahead. So like that convention, I looked up who was there because I wasn't going to go. But Dan Fisher helped me get a ticket, and I looked up at who's there, and I was like, oh, I'll see what it's about. And I saw Armada and Axtone, so I was like, right, got in touch with them both first, set up meetings, and we chat. Like Simon from Axtone, he like we messaged just like having a laugh. Like if I put something funny on my story, he'll reply to it or something like that. Don't necessarily get signed to Axtone. I get rejected by Axtone and Armada probably every couple of weeks. But you know, don't be bitter. Carry on, crack on.
No, well, I think this is the thing that sadly a lot of people just don't want to hear, and it is a case of it is just a case of just keep at it, keep working hard at it. Like you say, just keep knocking on that door until it opens.
Yeah,
you know, because I think, like for example, you know, a lot of people. I have loads of my mates that are really, really interested in the scene, and a lot of them, even from it, seeing what I've been able to do, have got into DJing because they thought, fuck me, I can have a career out of this as well, or I can get some gigs and do something. But they always say to me, how the hell did you get your gigs? How did you get it? And it's simply a case of I've been to ministry over 100 times. I was bound to bump into someone.
Yeah. I'm sure you're made with the bouncers and the people who own it and stuff as well. I'm guessing.
Exactly. Well, what happened was, I mean, I got to be honest, every single time I went, I was not looking for someone. I was not looking to meet a promoter. I wasn't looking to meet anyone besides the headlining DJ that I was going to see that night anyway. I was just fully invested in going to see guys that I'd idolised for years, and so I'd pay my my £30 ticket. I'd pay for a hotel, sometimes 80, 90, 100 quid, and then you got the fuel on top of that. I mean, at the time in my car it was probably 60 quid. You're talking a couple of £100. So it's not cheap, but you still can do it. If you want to break it down. For example, take away the biggest, fee there, the hotel, 100 quid. Because for the first sort of 40, 50 gigs that I went to in 2017 and most of 2018, I slept in my car.
Yeah.
So I'd go down to London after work on a Friday night, get home, get changed. By 6, 7 o'clock, I was in my car on my way down to London, get there for about 9 o'clock. I'd park about 5 minutes away from ministry on this little side road. I'd have a couple of, I'd go to Sainsbury's, have a drink in my car with some tunes on before the club opens. And then as soon as the club opens, get down there. And then, I'd stay there till 6 o'clock a lot of the time, and then get back to my car, and then have a nap until, say, 9 o'clock. I'd wake up in the middle of the day not knowing what time it was, and we'd just be like, oh. I mean, there was plenty of times as well, plenty of raves that I did, even before that, where I couldn't afford to have a few drinks in the club, so I was having to cut that out as well as the hotel. So, for example, one of the biggest memorable ones was, I think it was Don't Let Daddy Know 2017, when they did it in that arena thing. Remember that sports arena they did it in?
Yeah, I think that was the only time I skipped one. I bought tickets for it, and getting to getting to it was an absolute nightmare. So that's the only one I didn't go.
Well, I drove up from Birmingham, and like I say, it was literally right. There was a train station because it's an events arena, so they have quite a bit of traffic. So they have the train station there, and I just parked in the train station car park. I got there for, I think, 9:30. The event started at 10 and went on till 6, and I was there till 5:30. I didn't drink a thing. I was just on water, Monster, Red Bull all night, and then come about 5:30. Jumped in the car, went home, and was home by about 7 o'clock. And so I literally just did an all-nighter. But I tell you now, a lot of people, they're not interested in doing that. That's a lot of effort and a lot of commitment. And so, if you want something badly, you will do whatever it takes. And that's exactly what I did. in terms of getting gigs at Ministry, I never seeked them out. It kind of came to me naturally because I'd been going there for so long. Like I was going there more than the locals, a lot more than the locals. So I was there, I mean, for 2 years, maybe a bit more, it was probably 3 years, I suppose. I averaged every other week. So I was going
Yeah.
twice a month for about 3 years. And so eventually, you know, all the bouncers are going to know me, all the bar staff are going to know me, and all the regulars that are there are going to know me. And again, like I say, I was the only one going. I was going down on my own. So when I started going down, I didn't have a clue who anyone was. I didn't know who the promoter was or who this person was or that was. And even when you get into, you know, when you get friendly with some people that can get you into the VIP area, the promoter isn't walking around with a big badge saying, "I'm the promoter, come and chat to me."
Yeah.
No, I didn't have a clue who they were. So I just am who I am to everybody who I meet, you know, friendly, nice. Because I like to introduce myself to a lot of the people there, the regulars, and chat to the bar staff and whatnot. And they like the fact that I was friendly and, you know, chatty. And eventually I ended up meeting some promoters in there, and they just randomly turned around to me one night. I think I was seeing Bassjackers or something, and they said to me, "Oh, by the way, W&W's playing in a month." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I'm coming to see them." And they said, "Yeah, do you want to support them?" I was like,
Wow.
bearing in mind I've not played a gig.
Let me answer with yes.
Yeah. Bearing in mind at this point, I've not played a gig in my life. And this was April, well, no, the moment that they told me was February of 2019. I learned to DJ in December of 2018, so 3 months before. So
Wow.
they asked me that, and then I had at max 2 months to prepare from the February to the April. And so, 5 months on from learning to DJ, I was playing my first gig in Ministry, supporting W&W. Now, fair enough, I wasn't going on after them or before them in the same room, but I was on the same lineup and then as them, and that was so big for me because these guys were like my
huge. Don't try to downplay that. That's huge.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, like, Hardwell was the first, like, big room guy who got me into it, and then Tiesto. But then after that, Hardwell was always championing through the Revealed albums, W&W. They were the guys that were constantly making the big stuff. And so these guys were my idols, like, particularly. And so, a funny little thing as well. It was so special for me. Like, I think that gig will always be maybe my most special because I supported them on the 29th of April 2019. My first ever rave was the 29th of April 2016, seeing them at Ministry.
Oh, that's cool.
So 3 years on to the
3 years
day,
on, you're supporting them. See, in a way, you've done a lot better than me because I've literally played. I could count the gigs the gigs that I've done that I haven't done myself, probably on one hand.
What that's what I wanted to get into as well. Have you done gigs? Like, have you got into that space yet? And have you sort
of? I've tried. Like I've always sort of had the impression that, and been told, and it's been confirmed in quite a few times that the only way to sort of make it as a DJ is if you produce. So I've gone down the producing route first, and I'm hoping gigs will sort of come as a result of that.
Yeah.
But it requires just as much effort to go hunting for gigs as it does learning how to produce and then find contacts for labels and stuff like that. But like coming from DJing, I can't remember the last time going to Creamfield and looking at someone's name and they've not been producing anything and going, I'm going to go watch him. He's really good at mixing from one track to another. You go because you like the songs that they make. So, you know, if you want to make it onto like the festival lineups, you need to be able to produce and be consistent. Probably do it for like 3 to 5 years non-stop, track every single month. And then you might be lucky and start getting the big gigs. So in my mind, I mean, I know people say, "Oh, you've got to start playing in the empty room, and then you sort of like you build up from there." But that might not be the case for most people, because Martin Garrix, for example, he didn't have many gigs.
Mm.
But as soon as Animals dropped, he was playing. It went from like barely anything to festivals. It's like just depends what happens. So I need to work on my networking in the DJ world, not just producing next. Because I've had my third door into a big label. I need my third door into gigs now. I mean, I'd play every Friday and Saturday if someone gave me the opportunity. I just haven't had that yet.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like I say, I had this chat again yesterday where we were saying, is it an absolute necessity that to be a really good producer, you have to be a DJ and play out those tracks, and vice versa? Do you have to, be a producer to be a successful DJ? And
I think you
I mean,
own.
you know,
Go on.
yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, obviously, I mean, I'm nowhere near stopping yet. Like, I've only just begun, but I managed to get to the main room of Ministry without making a single track. He obviously played the main room at Victoria Warehouse in February last year, that Hellfire gig. Um, and that's about as big as you can get, certainly anywhere in the country. I mean, it's a bigger venue capacity-wise than Ministry, but
And
that's a giant gig to have. What's that?
gone for playing Creamfield as well.
Exactly. And like I say, he mentioned obviously he's had a few mix mash releases and ones to watch and whatnot, but even he said his heart has never been in producing, and it's the same for me. Like, I've never been interested in particularly, and this not to say that one day I won't be, but I've never been a very technically minded person.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, we was talking about how you've got two complete polar opposite situations where you've got a producer, and you've got a DJ. You've got the producer, which a lot of the time when you come across them, particularly the guys who have got, a lot of big music or are maybe ghost producing and don't DJ, they're introverts. They're very technically minded people. They did very well in school. They're whizzes on laptops and, computers and whatnot. And then, but they also keep to themselves. They're the kind of guys you don't ever see them constantly going out in the clubs with their pals on the weekend. These are the guys that they prefer to, stay in the house, play on the Xbox, and stay behind the keyboard, and that's that. And then you got the DJ, which is the complete opposite, a complete extrovert, where you've got to stand on stage and be the center of attention.
Yeah.
So you're going from one which has zero attention to the other, which is the center of attention. And it's strange to me that no one's ever had this conversation where they're so polar opposite extremes. And that's where there's an interesting relationship between the two, because sometimes it can go really well, but sometimes it can go horribly wrong, like Avicii.
Yeah.
Because to me, anyway, when I was looking, even years before, sadly passed away, I remember seeing some of his sets online and just looking at him and thinking, like, you can tell a person when they're in a situation and they just look uncomfortable. They just don't feel, they don't look like they're supposed to be there. And, his Tomorrowland sets and Ultra set, he just didn't look like he was supposed to be there.
Yeah, his earlier ones, I'd say. I think he got more into it.
Yeah,
But I know what you mean.
yeah. And I think it's interesting to sort of, there's a lot of podcasts out there and chat shows and interviews that have been done before, but no one's ever spoke about how the two, the producer and then the DJ, the two positions, there's such polar opposite positions, and a lot of the time they attract two completely different types of people, and occasionally you'll get people which I think like yourself. fairly technical minded, but you also happy being out on stage and entertaining a crowd. But you get a lot of situations with guys like Avicii where they're supposed to be introverts because that's what they want to do, and they don't feel comfortable at the center of attention. They feel comfortable with maybe one or two people around them, if not on their own, behind their laptop, making crazy tunes. And then it's the same for DJs where you're not having that problem because DJs, you can say a lot of guys that maybe are self-centered, some of them, the cockier people, who they just want to, pop the champagne bottles and vodka bottles on stage and get hammered and whatnot, and put on a crazy party. They're not interested in producing. And I think that has also breeded ghost producing.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I've had so little gigs and spent so much time in the studio. I'd probably say I'm more of the introvert side than like I'd love to be on the decks, drop the track that I've made, and everyone just lose their minds. But at the same time, I've only had like a few a few gigs, and every single transition, I'm still like, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up. I can't just be like, okay, just do it. In my room, I think I'm fucking arming, and transitions are smooth. The same thing will happen at a gig, but in my head, I'm like, was that good enough? Was that good? How does that sound? But I think you get more confident the more gigs you have. Success-wise, I definitely think 99%, if you want to be a successful DJ, you need to be a successful DJ producer. You need to make your own stuff. Now, you can probably get big DJs in who like always play all the clubs in Ibiza. They're only going to be so big, but you won't see them main stage Tomorrowland. You have to be able to produce absolute like bomb tracks and be consistent and do it for like 10 years, and then you'll be successful. I mean, I'd say, I mean, I've been producing since 2014, but nothing clicked until 2019. So there's a good 5 years of fucking about, and then when it clicks, it sort of there's nothing, and then it clicks, and then it's just whew. So now it just sort of spirals up. So,
but that I think is a big point that people should take away from this, where you learn to produce 5 years in advance, and you kind of, like you say, almost never fully invested your time into it until the 2019 point, and then all of a sudden, within what, months, a year or so maybe, you've all of a sudden got really big success that you probably couldn't imagine you would get so quickly, in the same way that I didn't think I'd get somewhere so quickly. So a lot of the time you'll have guys that maybe they've got dust on their decks, and they haven't DJ'd for a while. They could get back into it tomorrow.
Jeez, them covers haven't come off for a long time. Yeah, look, this is that's about the most action those decks have got. For about a year.
But the same in return, where you've got guys that are producers that have just not bothered really making a track in quite a few years, like yourself, and then all of a sudden they've got some stuff together and it's quickly rolled into something really special. So I think that's something where, a lot of people say, oh, I haven't done it in a few years, I'm rusty or whatever, it'll take me forever to get back into it. No, like you're a clear you're a clear example, thank you, Jesus Christ, of somebody who went out of it and just sort of kind of left it to one side for a little bit and then just came back in, fully invested in it, and within a very short amount of time you was able to get somewhere.
Yeah, well, like I didn't sort of just completely ditch it. I tried and tried and tried and tried, and then tried some more, and then put in the hours, and then tried some more, and then it was getting to the brink of like, can I be asked anymore? And I do have them dips sometimes of like, oh, this is shit. And I'm like, fucking hell. And then I'll show someone and then they go, this is really good. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'll show them, well, I think this is good. And then they'll be like, what, why are you saying you're like, every now and then I've still got like, oh, I'm shit at producing. And then I'll show someone and they'll be like, no, you're not. Shut up. I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. It's just like, I doubt myself a lot. And it's only when I started showing people to go, what are you talking about? Yes, you can produce. But I've put 5 solid years of like showing nobody, getting to a point where I thought, okay, I'm okay now. Let's see what feedback I get. And the feedback was, okay, you can produce, so go ahead and send the labels. So I think if you want something, you do have to do, you have to put the effort and the time into it. You can't just make one thing and then be like, oh, why is that guy in such a place? Like I got it when I was when I released on Dawn. It was like, oh, you only got there because of Martin. It wasn't because of just Martin. I'd been sending Martin tracks for about 4 months, and I had that relationship, and I built on it. And like we had chats and stuff about that's like not music because he's into his fitness. I'm into fitness. We just chatted. Like it's not like I've just asked some big DJ for a favor and he's gone, yeah, there you go. People don't see that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I have, and this is going to be an exclusive. I have a game that I want to play with you. Okay, and the game is basically, I'm going to say a subgenre of dance music of EDM, and I want you to just say the first word that comes to mind. Just the first word that comes to mind. Nothing. You didn't have to think too deeply about it and you know go back into the archives or whatever. Literally, just as I said, the first thing that comes to mind. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So,
one word or kind of
one
like
word.
a phrase? Right.
One word.
Okay.
Okay. Progressive house.
Amazing.
Deep house.
Repetitive.
Big room.
Getting boring. Am I allowed 2 words?
Yeah. 2 words is fine.
Okay. Right.
Hard style.
Don't get it. It's okay sometimes. I'll go with sometimes good. They're the first 2 words.
Okay. You can elaborate if you feel you need to.
Okay.
Trance.
The best.
Psytrance.
Heavy.
Bass house.
Funky.
Techno.
Sometimes good.
Okay.
You have to elaborate. Dark techno, yes. Normal techno, boring. Those are 2 words.
I'd agree with you there.
Thick and then there's boring.
Definitely. Dubstep.
Don't get it.
Drum and bass.
Sometimes get it.
Rap.
Shite.
Okay.
Sorry, but
to put it shortly, I couldn't agree more. Happy hardcore.
love it.
Tropical house.
No. That's my word, just no.
Groove/funk.
Overrated.
And then future bass.
Watch this space. You're coming from a guy who's made a techno track on spin on another label. People are going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? But I don't, like when we were on before about big DJs making aliases, I don't feel like I need to do that yet. It's just, I'm making what I like. I've made psytrance and I like it. And I'd say the most sort of crossover bit is acid. There's acid in the psytrance, there's acid in the techno, and there's acid in some of the future rave stuff that I'm sort of making now. It's just, if I like something, I'll make it. The track with Matt, that's more on the trancey side, but there's still acid in it. So I don't really stick to genres because I incorporate different things, sort of like future rave is. There's trance and there's electro and there's big room kicks and stuff like that. It's like, what's the word for it? I don't want to feel confined. I don't want to feel confined to stuff. It's just I'll make what I want, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I might go down the route of like, okay, this is his sound, but you know, a banger is a banger.
Mm.
I want to like, I'd happily make third party stuff, big emotional, progressive stuff. I just haven't got that ability yet.
Mm.
But I love listening to it. I love third party. I don't think they've brought out a track where I'm like, yeah. But if they are, it's very few and far between. But I mean, I'd love to make that, but I'm big into like my heavy acid stuff. So
I think third party have got one of the most loyal followings I've ever seen.
yes, it's
I don't.
not massive, but
No, but what it is, it's very, very loyal.
yeah,
I mean, like, I don't think I've seen a following that loyal. Maybe Timmy Trumpet has a super duper loyal following as well.
yeah,
But I don't think I've ever seen a group or DJ with as much loyal following as the third party guys. I don't think anyone's ever walked into a rave and gone, oh, I don't like this. This is terrible. When they're on, it's like,
yeah.
how can
Doesn't
you
matter.
not like? I think every single person, when they're on stage, their heart just melts. It's like, oh my God.
I met Harry at Don't Let Daddy Know just before ADA in 2019, and I said, "Do you know that you're the only guy that makes me cry on a regular basis?" And he went, "Okay." Obviously, messing. I think he was like, "The fuck are you?"
Yeah. That's very true. Them and certainly I don't know so much nowadays because I haven't heard so much of his current stuff. But back in the day when Andrew Rao brought out his first album, it was super like progressive-y trance slash
Yeah,
big room. It was a perfect mix, and I was obsessed with his album. And I remember like I was in tears when he was on stage because like every track it just hits that point in your heart where you're like, oh my God. And third party would do that for me every time I'd see them. And it's a feeling you can't explain. And it's just like the most magical, I don't care what I sound like. It's the most magical place in where you can be.
yeah, I
The most
completely
magical
agree.
place to me that's ever existed.
Answer quickly. Favorite third party track.
Um,
5 seconds to go.
Well, I'd say the most special one to me, this isn't necessarily my most favorite, but certainly the most special one that always hits me the most is Remember. Just
Same
because,
here. When
uh,
that vocal comes in, I'm just like, ah! That's what I told Harry. He's like, you make me cry so much, but I like it.
yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, what?
Well, I always, every time I hear that track, I always reminisce on certain people that have passed away that were very close to me. Like particularly when I was younger, I was really really close to my granddad growing up, and I never had like a. I was never able to say goodbye to him because he sort of just died of a heart attack one night. It wasn't like he'd been ill for a while and we knew about it. He was just fine one day and gone the next, and so that really hurt, and that was always sort of quite hard to get over. And so when I heard Remember by Third Party, that speaks to the soul, that does, and that sort of makes you remember those people who you really loved, maybe friends or family that have passed away. And it's a nice thing to be able to sort of think of them in that moment, because you just think about those good times and you just think, it's a really really nice track to listen to. But I don't know. I maybe I'd say that track, not only of theirs, probably of anyone that I have listened to. That's one of the most special tracks to me out of any track made. But
Completely.
um, oh, I think um, in terms of like just utter power, and like when you're at a rave or a festival and you hear it, Lions in the Wild is unbeatable. Like it's
Knew you were going
you
to say
hear
that.
that, you hear the
I
line,
agree again.
and it's
Yeah.
just like, wow, you just get blown away. It's such a powerful track.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I'd probably say them. But speaking of, uh, a DJ slash act that's very close to us, what would you say? is your biggest inspiration? Who would you say?
Currently,
Overall.
overall. Well, I'm gonna say, because I can't remember a time before it. Since birth, Tiesto has always been like my ultimate hero, and people slam him for changing genres, and I'm like, whatever Tiesto touches turns to gold. It's literally discovered Martin Garrix, discovered Hardwell, discovered Tommy Trash, discovered endless lists of people. It's just like, oh, I'm going to show this guy, and then they blow up, and then show this guy, and then they blow up. Like, we wouldn't have Hardwell and Garrix and people like that without Tiesto. And he's just doing his thing. I mean, at the minute, it's sort of relaxed sort of stuff that he makes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't quite inspire me as much at the minute as David Guetta and Morton. That future rave movement is just the best thing I've ever heard in my life. So, Tiesto a long time overall. David Guetta and Morton's movement is the current thing. It's even got like techno mixed in with that and everything. It's just slam all the good bits in together, and you've got future rave. So
that's what you'd say was really what gets you going at the moment. Then, and you say Tiesto was sort of the overall.
Overall, yeah, I can't, like, he's a genius, but at the minute, this future rave thing is I can't name anything that's better than it.
So in that case, then, would you say, or who would you say would be your dream collab?
Those two, David Guetta and Martin.
Really?
Yeah. If I don't know, it's very tied between David Guetta and Morton because of that sound, and I love it. But at the back of my mind, I've always wanted to get into the studio with Dyro because he's just a wizard. Mm-hmm. Even Martin Garrix called him a wizard because he made a track with Did he make a track with Dyro, or he's been in the studio with Dyro?
I think he did make a track with Dyro that they put out on Stamped. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Garrix said, "I've never seen anyone do the things that Dyro does with a laptop." Mm. And like, even before that, I've always wanted to get in the studio with Dyro and find out how the fuck do you make those sounds and do that.
Yeah.
And when that, and I'm like, well, if you're saying that, I clearly need to fly to Amsterdam and just hunt him down and be like, listen, I'll pay any amount of money to sit with you for an hour. But he'd probably just go, fuck off. Even if I had $1 million, he'd just be like, no.
Yeah. Well, no. Funny you mention that, because like Dyro, to me, I found him within months of getting into Hardwell. And Dyro, around that time, I think it was 2012, 2013, started up his radio show at the time, Daftastic Radio. I don't know if you ever listened to it.
And then morphed into Wolf.
That's it. And then he went into Wolf. Well, I listened from episode number 1 of Daftastic all the way until it changed into Wolf. And then I listened to Wolf for a bit. And yeah, I was obsessed with that sound. And it's interesting, the rabbit hole, so to speak, that you go down, because, initially it was the trancey stuff that got me into music. That was the first thing that I picked up online, and electro type of stuff. And then it was Tiesto that I found sort of through Adagio and that kind of thing. And then it was quickly into Hardwell, then quickly into Dyro. And then later on, and I'm just glued to everything this guy does. Eventually, Dyro started working with Loopers.
Loopers.
And my God, like, I think, oh, Christ. It must have been about 5-6 years longer than that now, Jesus. 6-7 years ago, when he started playing stuff. I think he got like his first few big releases on Wolf, and then he moved over to Stamped. But he is just unreal. Like, he's so underrated.
Oh yeah, and to be honest, Dyro is not many people. There's not many people that, like, some of them may have heard it, but people that, like, I speak to, they're not a big fan of Dyro. When I've showed them a few of the tracks, especially his track called Wolf, the acid track of all acid tracks, it's like, oh my God, it blows your head off every time, even now. And it's like, what, 6 years old or something, 7 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask you as well. I don't know if I've asked you already, but has there been a DJ that you've known nothing about and you've been, say, in a rave where there's multiple people playing, or say, for example, a festival, and you've just thought nothing about the person, not really known anything about their music or what they play, and then all of a sudden just fallen in love?
You did. You asked me, and it was Dyro. Dyro answered that question. Didn't really know much about him. Didn't know that Hardwell played any of Dyro's tracks.
Right, yes, at Creamfield.
Dyro at Creamfield, and then listened to Hardwell's Ultra sets, and then realised, oh, that's a Dyro track. I recognise that. So, Dyro's Creamfield set from 2014 is still on YouTube's underground somewhere. It got took down off Creamfield, but someone's re-uploaded it. And oh my God, it's still one of the best sets of my life. It's up there with Getter at ADA a couple of years ago. Oh, well, year and a half ago.
So two more questions I want to ask you then. What is, first of all, the number one most standout moment to you at an event you've been at, whether it be a festival or a rave? That one particular moment, I'm talking maybe a minute's worth, where you've just gone, wow.
That is a good question. I would say, and in fact, it's got to be the one because I've just got goosebumps up my entire body. Hardwell, 2017, dropping, is it Twig? There's a track by Twig, it's double I or triple I or something like that.
Twig, yeah.
The one that sort of sounds piratey. I can't remember the name of it.
Hero.
What?
Hero.
No.
Oh, How We Feeling?
No. Let me find my iTunes there quick.
They had How We Feeling, they had Hero, and they had one other one. Oh, I know what you're on about. Tarantula.
Tarantula. He dropped that because he had it in the breakdown. He had a W and W. It wasn't W and W. It was their alias. It was their alias's New Year breakdown. So it was super trancy, and then he dropped Tarantella, and it was side trance but acid at the same time. Those 2 minutes of just, this is fucking everything that is just the best. Wow. Like my favorite thing, and I'm getting goosebumps now trying to like just remember.
2017, you say?
You are.
Was this Greenfields 2017?
Greenfields 2017, because that, and I remember it specifically because it was the first Greenfields where I took my girlfriend, who I now go every rave with. She was stood in front of me. I lost my head. And she stood in front of me, and she looked up at the sky for some reason, and I went, oh my God. And I was like, yep, that's what Hardwell does, just takes you. Just the whole set. The whole set was just like perfect. And then he dropped that track, but he combined the Trancy New Year with the heavy acid sort of high bass thing that Tarantella had.
That's the first time I'd seen him at a festival, because I'd seen him at Victoria Warehouse earlier that year for the first time. But that was my second time ever seeing him, and first time in a festival environment. And I was bang in the middle, front row. So I couldn't have been any better place. And my God, those experiences you do not forget. You just won't forget them for the rest of your lives. It's insane.
So what was your like pinnacle minute then? Like I saw Swedish House Mafia at Creamfields, and the whole set was basically just their ultra set again. I'd say the pyrotechnics of when Antidote dropped in the fire thing.
That looked
I was super far back, and I felt like my eyebrows just got singed off. But you know, apart from that particular moment and the idea at the start of the track, which still hasn't come out, the rest of the set was just okay. It was just the ultra.
That's what I was thinking, because I was thinking a lot of like the mainstream listeners that are very sort of charty fans, they constantly listen to the radio, and they're going to a festival. They're not massive dance music heads. They're just going to a festival. Most of them were going to see Swedish House Mafia, and then the vast majority of the crowd would have been there, because they're just, regular music listeners, not necessarily dance music mad like me and you.
Yeah.
And then for that, I thought because of that, they're probably going to just play a lot of the classics and a lot of not necessarily ultra hard EDM stuff. Like I could understand that they were going to play like Antidote is an Unreal track, obviously. A lot of like Axwell and Grosso stuff I love, a lot of Steve Angello stuff I love, but there's not too many Swedish House Mafia tracks I like. I love Antidote.
Like one. Yeah,
I like one. See, I'm not. They don't grab me too much. I like one Garmiani remix. I think that's unreal. Like when that gets dropped, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's cool, but I like the original one, and I like Miami to Ibiza, and the rest don't quite. They've had their moment. They've had their one moment, the moment of one. It was like changed fucking everything.
Mm.
They're not going to beat that. I don't think any track's going to beat that for that sort of genre. So
they're going to have to do something. I mean, even now Axwell is making incredible stuff.
I prefer them separate. I prefer Axwell and Grosso separate, and Steve Angello set to just another guy who makes me cry. Like, you make me tear up so much.
Yeah, Axwell and Grosso. The first time I seen them again was Creamfields 2017, and they blew me away. Like it was just something else. It was just like, wow. Like it's a different flavor from your Hardwell W&W Big Room, and it was like, oh. It was like when you've eaten ready salted and salt and vinegar all your life, and then you discover prawn cocktail. You're like, oh, hello.
Well, it's that Swedish Big Room that like they have and Alesso has, and even though he's Russian, that what's the guy? Dapov. He's Russian, but he does more the sort of Swedish Big Room, not your revealed Big Room. We are going to have to wrap this up in a minute. I'm dying from
No, definitely.
Well, do you have any more particular?
No. I'm about to wrap up now anyway as well. But I'll probably just say quickly that my moment as well would have been at Tomorrowland, my first Tomorrowland in 2018, where W&W came out. It was about 5:00. Hardwell, Tiesto, Axwell and Grosso were on after them, so it was like the start of the big boys. Kolsch was just finishing up, so it was like techno, and then it was the start of the night W&W was coming on. And I have never ever felt energy like that in my life. When they came on, the whole of the main stage was packed, and I have never felt energy like that in my life. And I was there when Martin Garrix came on the main stage, when David Guetta was on, Alesso. And I've never quite felt, maybe when Hardwell came on, but besides that, like Tiesto, Axwell and Grosso, I've seen them all at the main stage, but nothing was like the thunder from when W&W came on. And it was like...
What did they open with? What was it?
It weren't Wizard of the Beast. What the fuck was it? It was Rave Culture. They opened with Rave Culture, and then
no wonder.
The second track, immediately within a few minutes of opening with Rave Culture, next track they brought Blaster Jacks on stage to preview Let the Music Take Control, and it was like, okay, this is ridiculous. This
Lose your mind.
Melted my mind. I've never experienced anything like it since. But yeah, there we go. But the last question I want to ask you quickly is, what is the one sort of standout moment in terms of your producing? It may have been when you've met someone and they've gave you good feedback, or it may have been when you've been in the studio and you've gone, I actually have made something magical, when you've been thinking, this is going nowhere. What would be that moment for you?
The one I want to say is something that I'm working on is currently finished, and it's with someone. It's not like a special surprise collaboration with like a huge DJ, but we sat down and we went, right, we've got this sound, we want to aim for this label, and we sort of studied the sort of like sound and got some sort of reference tracks from said label, and we've made these 2 tracks, and they are so fucking good. It's just a case of how quickly we can get them to said label. I'm not going to reveal anything, and I'm not going to say who it's with either. And it's nothing that I've done before. It's not size, not techno. It's just this sound, and it's a completely unique sound because the said sound is such a shambles of a setup that I've done. Rather than just using a synth and then processing it, I've grouped 3 synths onto the same channel, and it's made this unique sort of lead sound. It's almost like, I can't describe it, but basically these 2 tracks that were sat on, and because they're so good, we're going to be making another a 3rd or a 4th possibly. I'm just mega excited for what I'm about to put out. It's just a case of when. So it's a bit vague, but I'm fucking, I can't wait.
If you can't compare it to anything out there, you know you've got something unique.
Yeah. It's like we've took some reference tracks and then just one-upped it. Really? So that's all I can say. I'm my legs twisted now, and I'm sort of like, I need to show people this, but we're keeping it so secret, and we're not going to do any sort of like reveal. It's literally when the release day is on. It could be for in 12 months, but we're not going to say anything until nearer the time and just be like, bang, this is what we've done. And I guarantee most people are going to be like, what the fuck? So how have you done that? But see how it goes best. So
that sounds epic, man. Right, it was awesome speaking to you, mate. I'll let you go. Thanks for taking the time today to have a chat with us, and hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I'm sorry if I've waffled too much at some points, because I know that I do, but
not at all, mate. These for me are all about getting to know whoever I'm chatting to at the time and helping people understand who is Mark Roma in this case.
Cool.
All right, well, legend. Thanks, mate.
Right, catch you soon.
Take care, man.
Yeah.